Los Angeles, 1927. The air in the city buzzes with the energy of new beginnings, of glamour and ambition. Nestled in the heart of downtown, a 19-story building rises to kiss the California sun, a monument to prosperity. The Cecil Hotel, its name glimmering in the daylight, was meant to be a beacon for travelers, a luxurious refuge for businessmen, actors, and wanderers. But it would soon become something far darker, a pit of despair, a grim theater for nightmares. From the beginning, something about the hotel felt wrong, as if it were cursed. People spoke in hushed tones about its construction. Rumors spread of a worker who fell from the scaffolding to his death. Yet, no one could have predicted how deeply the shadows would settle over the Cecil. The hotel opened its doors to an eager public, and the first few years saw a steady stream of guests. But the optimism of the 1920s gave way to the despair of the Great Depression, and the Cecil began to attract a different crowd. The lost, the broken, the ones clinging to the edge of society. Its reputation tarnished. It became known as a residence for the transient and the destitute. The rooms that had once echoed with the laughter of tourists and businessmen were filled with silence, or worse, with sobbing, with cries, with secrets. The first death came quickly, almost too quickly. A man had thrown himself from his window, his body striking the pavement below with a sickening thud. The guests and staff were shocked, murmuring prayers for his lost soul. But then came another, and another. A woman next, leaping from the same window, her pale dress billowing like the wings of a fallen angel as she fell. And thus began the curse of the Cecil. Bodies kept falling from its windows, as if the hotel itself was urging them on, whispering to them in the dark. The press labeled it the suicide, and the nickname stuck. The Cecil seemed to attract those on the brink, people who came to its doors with the weight of the world on their shoulders, and left through the windows, their bodies broken on the concrete below. And the suicides were only the beginning. In 1947, the body of Elizabeth Short, later known as the Black Dahlia, was discovered in a vacant lot, her mouth slashed into a grotesque smile. Though she was not killed at the Cecil, rumors swirled that she had visited its bar days before her death. She was seen sipping a drink, her dark hair falling over her shoulders like a shroud, her eyes scanning the room, perhaps sensing the danger that lurked in the shadows. Her ghost, they say, is one of many that roam the halls, looking for answers, looking for peace. The Cecil did not rest. It did not relent. It continued to beckon, to draw in those with the darkest secrets, the deepest sorrows. Serial killers took up residence, using its rooms as a sanctuary for their sins. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, prowled its corridors, returning from his nocturnal hunts with blood on his hands, slipping into the Cecil like a wolf into its den. The whispers grew louder. The hotel was cursed, they said, a beacon for darkness, a magnet for death. And then, Elisa Lam. The story of Elisa Lam is one of those that defies reason, logic, and time itself. A young woman, full of life, who had come to Los Angeles looking for adventure, for escape. She checked into the Cecil, oblivious to its grim history, its legacy of despair. For days she was seen around the hotel, a small, quiet figure, moving through the lobby, the elevator, always alone. But then she vanished. Weeks passed before they found her, or rather, before the guests found her. Complaints of foul-smelling water, of faucets that sputtered and ran dark with a strange viscous liquid, led the maintenance worker to the roof. There, in a water tank, he found her body, floating face up, her eyes wide open, staring into the void. How did she get there? The doors to the roof were locked and alarmed. The tanks were heavy, the lids difficult to lift. Surveillance footage showed her last moments, a disturbing scene captured in the hotel's elevator. In the video, she seemed to be hiding from something, or someone. She moved erratically, pressing all the buttons, peeking around the door as if expecting a ghost to appear. At one point, she seemed to speak, her mouth moving silently, her hands gesturing, reaching for something unseen. And then, the elevator doors closed, and she was gone. Investigators searched for clues, piecing together her final days, her final moments. They spoke of her mental state, of her journals filled with confusion and fear, but they could not explain how she had reached the roof, how she had ended up in the tank. Some say she was lured there by a presence, something that dwelled within the walls of the Cecil, something that fed on the lonely and the lost. The hotel's history seemed to breathe around her death, wrapping it in a shroud of mystery. Those who knew the Cecil whispered of the curse, of a darkness that had claimed another victim. They spoke of the ghosts that haunted its halls, of the laughter heard in empty rooms, the footsteps that echoed in the night, the cold spots that appeared without warning, and the feeling, always the feeling of being watched. Guests continued to check in, driven by morbid curiosity or an unwillingness to believe in things unseen. They would wake in the middle of the night, their hearts pounding, convinced they were not alone. Some left in the early hours, pale and shaken, unwilling to stay another night. Others never checked out at all. The Cecil remains a monument to the darkness that lies within the human soul, a place where the line between the living and the dead is blurred. It is a hotel that keeps its secrets close, that whispers in the night to those who dare to listen, that waits patiently for its next guest, its next story. It stands there, a hulking presence against the Los Angeles skyline, its windows dark, its rooms quiet, but not empty. Never empty. It watches, it waits, it remembers. The Cecil does not forget, it does not forgive.